Hi there, I'm here to show you a bird of the day project that I made. I'm first going to go over how it works and then I'm going to jump into the code. This project is written in Python and works by utilizing two different APIs in locally hosting a web page. The first API we're going to be utilizing is the eBird API, which stores information about bird locations. The eBird website has a surprise function which takes you to a random page. So rather than worrying about finding a random bird on our own, we can just use that. We then take the end of the URL of the surprise bird and feed that directly as the ID into the API itself. From that API, we get information about the bird's taxonomy and name and such. We take the name and put that into a Google custom search API and then search the internet on some bird-specific websites for an image of the bird. And then we also take the information from the eBird API and use that species info on the web page. We locally host just a web page using Flask, which is a Python library. So let's jump into the code. So here we are in PyCharm looking at the Python code. We declare some different variables that will be filled by the bird APIs. We then define some functions that Flask will use to locally host using some special annotation, and then feeding in the different aspects that we'll get from the API into this. We then move on to the main function, and we have the option not to use the API and just use some static information if we want to test the web page and not utilize all of our queries for the APIs. Otherwise, we go to the Surprise Me webpage on the ebird.org website and then see where that redirects us. We allow for redirects there. And then we split that up, the URL response, and then get the last portion of that. And that last portion is the ID that is also in the API. So because the eBird website has a website about birds and also an API, you can use the ID that we get from the website into the API directly. We then send that over in the URL and then get information about that bird. The response is a JSON just list separated by commas. So the different parts of the bird have a different index. So the scientific name is index 14 and the order is 22. We then take the common name from the API and feed that as our query into the Google payload. And we're using a custom search that only searches some specific bird websites and Wikipedia for images of the bird. We then send a request and get a response, and then we get the image link. There's a whole big response, but we're really only getting the image link from that, which is defined as a function. So it goes into the items, item 0, and the link from item 0. We then take that link and feed that into a GET request to get the bytes of the image. Sometimes it's just not in the right format. It might be like a .webp or some other format so the image doesn't load. So we have a try catch for that. And then we open up those images and save it as bird.jpg. And then finally, we run the app, which locally hosts the API. So if we have it as false, we can run it here and then pull it up and see a web page about just an American robin, which is the default bird. It has today's date and then info about the bird. And now I will put the keys back in and show you what it looks like with a random bird. Now if we change this to true and paste back in the API keys and run it again, we should see that it is a random bird, and it has information about the family, the order, the scientific name on this web page, and then also like a little about page and all the fancy stuff you would want to see if you were to turn this into a full-length project. This has been a demo of my Bird of the Day project. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.